Hello, good evening. Testing, testing. Hopefully you can hear me all right. If I don't even know if anybody's watching this because it's a test. So if you are watching this, oh, we got an echo. Let's mute myself over there. This is just a test. I'm just trying to run the stream to see if we can recreate the technical glitches that we've been having on the Friday night streams. They tend to start around the 1.5 hour mark, between 1.5 hour and 2 hours. And you know me, I like to do 3-hour streams. I like to ramble on a bit and get deep into it with the rants and the resources, in this case, the books. So I thought I'd just do a test to see if we can sort of recreate the glitches and find out what the heck's going on, because it's turning into a bit of a head scratcher, which, you know, it doesn't take much to make me scratch my head. I'll be honest. I'm not a technical kind of person. I'm more of a plug and play sort of person. I've always been that way. I'm not that bothered about getting into the menus and the settings and the BIOS and the, you know, looking at what's under the hood. Frank says the test came through okay. The commencement part anyway. Okay. Now that I'm talking, let's see what happens. So I thought what I'd do as part of this test is to just read through a little bit of Aldous Huxley, Brave New World Revisited. I have talked about this on with Melissa, but I haven't read through the book on HEYS Reviews. And there's some pretty astonishing quotes in this book. And as you can see, I've read it and I've got my tabs all marked up here for the interesting bits. So I thought I might just go through some of these with you today. Let me just adjust. Oh, hang on a sec. That's going too far down. Which one am I looking for? Is it that one? This is my magical moving desk. That's a bit too high. I think it's this one then. All right, okay. I think we're at the right level. Celine Lyon, audio and video looking good. Lovely jubbly. All right, Aldous Huxley, Brave New World Revisited. He wrote it 30 years after he wrote Brave New World. Oh, hang on, this is a strange angle. Let me get comfy. 1964 it came out. Brave New World was sort of in the 30s or something. So it's about 30 or so years. First published 1959. Sorry, apologies. This is a reprint, 1964 reprint. But 1959 was the first time. And as you can, like right out the gate, the first thing that he's concerned about is overpopulation. No surprises there. We'll have a look at some of the quotes that I have marked up. So in the overpopulation section, we've got this bit here. And I've written in the margin, kill with kindness. So in the light of what we have recently learned about animal behavior in general and human behavior in particular, it has become clear that control through the punishment of undesirable behavior is less effective in the long run than control through the reinforcement of desirable behavior by rewards. So they figured out a little pat on the head, a little snack, a little bonus works better than threats and violence and anger. Frank says there's tiny breaks in audio happening. Goodness me, what is going on? That should not be happening. Keep me updated with happenings. And let me know if the same thing's happening on Rumble, if anyone's watching over there. I guess I can watch the replay anyway, so you don't need to let me know necessarily in real time. Stop start audio now. Stop start audio. Well, the stats bar over here, I can't find a way to show it you. Oh, hang on, maybe I can. No, I can't find a way to show you my stats bar without showing you like my whole desktop. I don't want you judging me for all the programs that I've got installed on my computer, so I'm not going to show you that. But my stats bar says the CPU usage is 4.6%, which is nothing. And it's all green. They've had 11 missed frames, which is nothing. It's less than 0.0%. Well, it's less than 0.1%. And there's no skipped frames due to encoding lag. So what is causing this audio crapness? Very frustrating. Very frustrating indeed. So soon into the live stream as well. I thought I might get an hour of just smooth streaming and no problems. And that the problems wouldn't, I was hoping the problems wouldn't kick in till an hour and a half. Because if it turned out that I could stream for an hour without any problems, then I could just do hour-long streams. And that actually might increase the viewer count, because it's only a rare breed that feels comfortable settling in for a 2 to 3 hour live stream. You are all rare breeds. All right, hang on. This might be a way for me to show you the stats. Oh, my screen's going a bit fuzzy and weird as well. I hate it when that happens. Never quite sure what causes it. Yeah, if you have a look over here on the top, is that all gone? Has that all gone a bit squiggly for you? Probably has, hasn't it? Well, it's all gone a bit squiggly and weird now. Let's move that over here. Yeah, my whole okay, it's squiggly on my side. It looks like on the live stream it's actually coming through clear. So okay, you can see this is the stats, OBS stats. My CPU usage is like very low. I've got 154 hours because I'm recording this live stream, so I can record for 154 hours before I run out of disk space. And it hasn't dropped any frames. It's skipped 2 frames out of 124,000. It's missed 13 out of 169,000. And this is all I really have, apart from like watching the stream as well. But trying to watch yourself as you're live streaming and doing a live stream is a bit of a faff. I'm not that keen on it. So go back to my test screen. Oh goodness, something very strange just happened and keeps happening. I wonder if it's just time to... Maybe I need a fundraiser to get me a new laptop. Maybe I'll do a what do they do usually to raise money? I've seen these like gameathons where they'll do speed running computer games and they'll just live stream themselves playing games for 24 hours straight or whatever. If I do a 24-hour live stream just reading, I don't know, what would you want me to listen to me read for 24 hours straight as a fundraiser to help me get a new laptop? There's a lot to choose from. We could do the 4-volume set, The City of by David Kynaston, about the City of London. That would probably take longer than 24 hours, to be honest. A World of My Own on Rumble says Sound and Vision has gone out of lip sync with you in frame. Brilliant. Right, let me just mute myself. I'll mute the microphone so I can listen to the sound on the replay, but I'll bring the music back in so you've got something to listen to. There you go. Yeah, it doesn't really seem out of sync to me when I would just caught my the back end of the last thing I said there, but I'm just going to try this and see if this looks out of sync or not. Now apparently the visuals are jerky as well on old YouTube. This is very strange. Oops. Let me mute myself so we don't have one of those nasty feedback loops. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what is going on. Because it's unusual for there to be interruptions and problems this early in the stream. So this is almost like a new problem we're coming up with. But Celine Lyon says, "Funny, I'm not seeing that, Frank Strange." Oh, Frank, maybe it's on your end. Stream a 3-hour film as a test. Yeah, but which one that's not going to get copyright strikes and But I think it's a different thing as well, though. Just having to just streaming the audio and video from a movie file than having my computer and the platforms and the technology process a camera, a microphone, this camera, the graphics, and me operating all of that at the same time. It's all well and good being able to just play a video, but this is what I want to be able to do. And I used to be able to do it without a problem. That's the frustrating thing about technology these days, is I used to be able to do all this with not an issue at all. I'm wondering if one of the things that I need to do is get a hardwire connection to my router instead of relying on Wi-Fi. I think that might be a big that might make a big difference. But the problem is I'm like the opposite side of the house and upstairs from my router. So I got to figure out a way to run the wire. And I don't know how to do it without creating tripping hazards all the way through the house. The music's stopping and starting. Yeah, that was probably me. I don't want to have the music on while I'm talking, so I'm trying to DJ as well. Well, we didn't get much of Brave New World Revisited covered, did we? That's a shame. This bit, basically, the bit though that I didn't finish talking about, he was just saying that kill them with kindness, rewarding gets a better level of obedience than punishment. He says, government through terror works on the whole less well than government through non-violent manipulation of the environment, right? So that's the cities and the towns, and of the thoughts and feelings of individual men, women, and children. So government through manipulation of thoughts and feelings. He says down here, the nearly perfect control exercised by the government is achieved by systematic reinforcement of desirable behavior, by many kinds of nearly non-violent manipulation, both physical and psychological, and by genetic standardization. He's talking about the world of Brave New World here that he's imagined. But a lot of what he's saying is applicable to the world of 1959. Let's see what else we got. I've marked this page up for some reason. How do you like the setup, by the way, with the kind of with it all on one screen? You got the book on this kind of display with the book here and the full, you know what I'm talking about, with the graphic at the top and the little background cycling across in the bottom line. Is this distracting, annoying, any good, any bad, any bad? This would be a lot easier for me to do, but you know, there's always because the way we've been doing it before is like this, with a sort of half and half type thing. This might be easier. Just gets it all on one screen. Although the book's not as easy to read, is it? The book's a bit easier to read on this view. Right. The Mansion says half and half is better, less distracting. Yeah, I agree with you. Don't have all these silly graphics and things flying past your eyes trying to catch your attention. So in this bit, he says the probability of overpopulation leading through unrest to dictatorship becomes a certainty. So this is why we've got to deal with the population problem. And he made the prediction that all the world's overpopulated and underdeveloped countries would be taken over by communism. And then to wrap up this chapter, he says, liberty, as we all know, cannot flourish in a country that is permanently on a war footing, or even a near war footing. Permanent crisis justifies permanent control of everybody and everything by the agencies of the central government. And permanent crisis is what we have to expect in a world in which overpopulation is producing a state of things in which dictatorship under communist auspices becomes almost inevitable. Well, the crises are, I mean, if you allow the government to take emergency powers during a crisis, then they're going to keep manufacturing crisis to give themselves more powers. That's a bit obvious, isn't it? It's kind of obvious. Should really go without saying. Let's see. So we're in, the next section is over-organization. There's a reference down here to The Power Elite, a book by C. Wright Mills. In a capitalist democracy such as the United States, it's controlled by what Professor C. Wright Mills has called the power elite. This power elite directly employs several millions of the country's working force in its factories, offices, and stores, controls many millions more by lending them money to buy its product, and charging them interest for the privilege of doing so, and through its ownership of the media of mass communication, influences the thoughts, the feelings, and the actions of virtually everybody. To parody the words of Winston Churchill, never have so many been manipulated so much by so few. So it's interesting that he mentions this Power Elite C. Wright Mills book. And then on this side, he refers to a Frankfurt School member, Dr. Eric Fromm. And this is in a section about technology. He says, modern technology has led to the concentration of economic and political power and to the development of a society controlled ruthlessly in the totalitarian states, but controlled politely and inconspicuously in the democracies by big business and big government. Don't forget Big Brother. He says, but societies are composed of individuals and are good only insofar as they help individuals to realize their potentialities and to lead a happy and fruitful life. How have individuals been affected by the technological advances of recent years? Dr. Eric Fromm answers this, quote, our contemporary Western society, in spite of its material, intellectual, and political progress, is increasingly less conducive to mental health and tends to undermine the inner security, happiness, reason, and the capacity for love in the individual. It tends to turn him into an automaton. That's how you say that, isn't it? Automaton who pays for his human failure with increasing mental sickness and with despair hidden under a frantic drive for work and so-called pleasure. He says at the bottom here, the really hopeless victims of mental illness are to be found among those who appear to be most normal. So that's the living lives of quiet desperation idea, isn't it? Which is a Pink Floyd lyric as well. Hanging on in quiet desperation is the English way. So apparently Frank's doing some tests for us. The problems were coming through on the large screen, but it seems to be okay on the Android phone. That's good to know. That's very good to know. Lovely. Rumble, A World of My Own says, is it really that big a deal not having visual and lip sync? Screen layout is great. No, it's not that big a deal. But some people find it annoying to watch if they're watching at all. And it shouldn't be happening. So it's not the end of the world. We can still get some audio out and people can still hear me, my voice, my dulcet tones, and my narration of the books that we're reading. And in fact, this whole show could be done in audio. No problem. The reason that I do it as a video is so that you can see I'm reading from books. And that I'm not just making stuff up, making up quotes, etc. That the evidence that I'm presenting is real and is printed and is reliable. But I have had a few people ask me for an audio only version if I would publish these videos just the audio in a podcast form, and I keep meaning to set it up and do it, and it's just one of those things I haven't got around to doing. So I apologize to those of you out there who are waiting patiently for HEYS Reviews audio. It will come eventually. I might need to just hire somebody to go through all the previous episodes and chop off the long guitar music intros, and then I can just start uploading them. Because I bet if I started a podcast now, it would be good to go back to the earlier streams and books that we read, the Rothschild book and Bertrand Russell, and republish some of those for people's benefit. I could certainly do with revisiting some of those and refreshing myself, because I've got a terrible memory. A World of My Own says, this proves it's not AI. Yeah, that's another thing as well, is I know AI is getting good, but I'm not sure it could come up with this on the fly. Me talking and a book with scribbles and annotations, and I'd be pretty amazed if it could recreate this, what I'm presenting to you right now and streaming to you right now, in a way that was impossible to distinguish from the real thing. That would, if we get to that point, we are screwed. So really, I shouldn't be doing this because someone somewhere, Sam Altman, he's going to be hoovering this up and running it into his little AI farm and training the models to do this sort of thing. But the beauty is that you can always buy yourself a hard copy and check and verify for yourself, right? So a few more sections here on over-organization. There's Over-organization is basically him talking about the managed society, the planned technocratic society where everything is tracked and traced and allocated. The communist society as well. The communists did the same thing. Looks like the entropy stream is not working. Oh, no, it is. Okay, cool. Not that anyone ever watches me on entropy, but... Celine Lyon says, AI is a glorified calculator. I like that. That's good. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't have any personality or wit. It can do some basic jokes, but the AI stuff is dead. That's the thing. It doesn't have that, it doesn't have the spark of life in it. And it's painful to read, and you just see it being used more and more in more and more places, and it's a bit upsetting. So this section, it's about over-organization. And he says, page 38, in politics, the equivalent of a fully developed scientific theory or philosophical system is a totalitarian dictatorship. So if you're wondering where all your scientism and your glorification of the white lab coat, clipboard-wielding experts is taking you, it's taking you to totalitarian dictatorship. He says, in economics, the equivalent of a beautifully composed work of art is the smoothly running factory in which the workers are perfectly adjusted to the machines. Perfectly adjusted to the machines. So the machines aren't serving the people are serving the machines and are being molded and messed with and forced to... Well, it's the idea that the machines, and this is an idea that's in like Marshall McLuhan's book, the medium is the message, and also the 4 arguments for the elimination of television gerrymander, where he argues that television cannot be reformed. It is the way it is. It has the effect that it has, and no matter what the broadcast subject or material is, it's causing harm. That's the same idea. All the machines that we've been given, the smartphones, the black screens, the cameras, all of it adds up to, it molds us, it shapes us, it affects us. And it causes we become adapted to it instead of the other way around, right? So we lose certain dimensions and abilities to our humanity. They become atrophied and weakened and eroded, and we rely on the machines. And in that's how we become perfectly adjusted to the machines. He says, the will to order can make tyrants out of those who merely aspire to clear up a mess. Yeah, so this is your kind of overbearing, OCD, control freak level of having to keep everything under check. The beauty of tidiness is used as a justification for despotism. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I put as well on this side here, Melchett Mustafa Mond. So in Brave New World, the antagonist, if you want to call him that, the kind of big wig who Savage John ends up talking to is this guy called Mustafa Mond. And he's high up in the hierarchy, the bureaucracy of the world state. I think is it called the world state in Brave New World? But he was based on a real person called Alfred Mond. I've got a book about him. I'll just grab it from down there. Be right back. Here I am. Oh, this actually feels a bit cold and damp. I hope it's not damp. I hope it's just cold. There'd be no reason for there to be damp on my bookshelves. That's why I'd be getting a bit worried. So Mustafa Mond, in Brave New World, the sort of antagonist, and the climax of the Brave New World, it has a similar structure to 1984 in that, and also We by Yevgeny Zamyatin. All 3 of those books have a really similar structure in that the main character ends up sort of having this dialogue, this face-to-face with somebody high up in the bureaucracy. the system, the control system, who reveals all the plan and the view. So in 1984, it's Brian O'Brien, and then in We, who is it in We? I forget. I can't remember the name now. Some sort of controller or other. But in Brave New World, it's Mustafa Mond that he tells John the Savage about why books need to disappear and old things need to be forgotten and gotten rid of, and it's all forward progress, on with the new, and how the magic trick is done, how the sausage is made, in other words. And that character, Mustafa Mond, is based on Alfred Mond, First Lord Melchett. And this guy was an industrialist, a Jewish industrialist in the UK, and he had big factories and he had people working in those factories. And Aldous Huxley went to visit and went on a tour around the factory and was really impressed about how well everything was run. And he was like, wow, this is really efficient and everything's effective. And so that informed the character Mustafa Mond. And so I grabbed this biography pretty cheap because it's an old book and he's not a well-known person, so it was only a couple of quid. There he is. Alfred Mond. And I love these old books, you know, you get these tracing paper pages to sort of protect the images that they put in there. I'm not even sure if there's a year on this thing. Let's have a look. 1933. For those of you who get freaked out by the number 33. There's another one. Yeah, brilliant. A really helpful contents page there. That is the least useful contents page I've ever seen, I think, in any book. Audio's still fine over on Rumble. That's good. Yeah, so check out the contents. Chapter 1, 2, 3, all the way up. There's illustrations, though. Maybe we'll have a look at some of those. David Lloyd George. People probably know that name. Let's have a little bit. We'll do a little dive into chapter 1, a little impromptu. What do you call it? Tangent. So chapter 1. Near to Kassel is the small village of Ziegenhain, inhabited by Hessian peasants, whose story goes back to the 14th century. Among the people who lived there in the latter half of the 18th century was a man in his 60s, a Jew, named Bayer Meyer Mond. His eyesight was failing. Both his wives had died. Sorry, I just laughed. I don't know if, because to my mind, I'm like, did he have one who died and then got married again and then she died? Or did he have two at once who both died? That's just the way it's worded is ambiguous there. And neither of his wives did not leave him a son. He suffered in his loneliness all the more because the Christians in the village hated him. Oh, those nasty Christians. Resenting his industry and the tiny fortune he had saved from his business as a produce merchant. One day, his dim eyes looked up from the desk to see a company of soldiers at the door. They were wild from drinking. They had swept through the village, bent upon destruction and robbery, and there was no prey more easy for them than the helpless, half-blind Jewish merchant. They burst through the door and plundered his house, destroying his treasures, stealing his papers and his gold, and leaving him impoverished and alone. Mond was a devout Jew, so he met his adversity with prayers. He had lost most of his earthly treasures, and he was too old now to gather them together again. His unhappiness was increased because he knew that when he died he would leave no son with Hebrew scholarship to pray for him. New courage came to him with his prayers. He went out from his house and sought about the village for a third wife. He chose one who was a young and pretty Jewess named Zerlina Weinberg. So he's in his 60s, and he's half blind and old, and he's just been robbed. He's got nothing left, and he manages to bag himself a young and pretty Jewess named Zerlina Weinberg. Fair play. She gave him 2 sons, and the first of these he called Moritz. This boy proved to be healthy, well-conditioned and scholarly. As the old man watched him grow, he was delighted and he recovered from his despair. Bayer Meyer Mond lived until Moritz was 11 years old. Almost blind, he lay upon his bed with Moritz sitting beside him. He rolled his old head upon the pillow and prayed, O Lord, send out thy Holy Spirit upon us, so that we may worship thee in truth. Spread the pavilion of thy peace over us. He died contentedly, for he knew that Moritz would pray in Hebrew and say the son's Kaddish in memory of his father's name. They buried Meyer Mond in the little Hebrew cemetery. Young Moritz had stood beside the coffin as his father had wished. He had said the prayer of his people. May the great name of the Lord be exalted and hallowed throughout the world, which he hath created according to his will. May abundant peace from heaven, life, redemption, comfort, healing, pardon, and enlargement be granted unto us and unto all Israel. And say ye, Amen. I don't know, praying for enlargement. I've never heard of that one before. I mean, I've been to church since I was a wee kid. As a Catholic, none of the prayers are going after enlargement, but there you are. May he who maketh peace in his high heavens grant peace unto Israel and unto all mankind, and say ye Amen. Then the boy went back to his mother's house to comfort her in her grief. So I don't know when we're going to actually find out about the main man of the book. Should we do another little section? They're not too long. Section 2. When he was 17 years old, Moritz Mond left the village and the enmity of its dour peasants, and he set out along the dusty road to Cassel. In his pocket was a letter for a silk merchant and draper called Levinson, who was also a Jew. Moritz Mond walked through the beautiful streets, and he found the home of Aaron Levinson, a big, old, gabled house with high windows and gargoyles which grinned against the sky. In this house lay his fortune and his happiness. Aaron Levinson had come from Hanover. He was gentle and courteous, and he was a Hebrew scholar, with many books and good taste in pictures and colours and brocades. He had risen to strength and prosperity in Cassel, and the Christians no longer persecuted him. He was married to Eva Muller, a name unusual among the Jews. One of her forebears had saved a prince from drowning in a brook, so the Landgraf had given them a Christian name to help them in their fight against persecution. Eva Levinson spoke Italian and French. She wrote poetry and she played the violin. Moritz Mond went to live with the Levinson family. He worked in the warehouse, measuring the silks and damasks, which were to make dresses for the court theatre. He slept in a room high up under the gabled roof, and in the evening he would sit with the family, listening to the mother playing the violin or to old Aaron Levinson reading Goethe aloud. All the cultivated Jews of Cassel came to the house. In the evening they read poems and fine prose. New duets were practised upon the piano, and good wine was drunk around the table upon which their manuscripts and books were spread. In such a house, Moritz Mond forgot the anxiety and unhappiness of his old father. His character became strong, and he acquired a knowledge of books and pictures and music. Aaron and Eva Levinson had no son, but they had 3 eligible daughters, named Friederike, Johanna, and Henrietta. When some years had passed, the young apprentice had proved himself diligent and honest, so it was suitable that he should marry one of his master's daughters. He chose Henrietta, with whom he went to galleries and theatres, and with whom he studied French and Italian. He begged her hand when she was 19, and 2 years later he married her. Now he took the place of his father-in-law in the business, and old Aaron retired more and more to the upper rooms, where he read aloud to the children of Cassel. Sometimes, when there was a great new production at the theatre, which the elector himself was to attend, Aaron would go to Cologne and buy brocades or match colours for the dresses, but he left most of the troubles of his business to Moritz and Henrietta. So it's quite a fetching tale, I would say. It looks like Alfred doesn't come into the story until somewhere around here, a bit later. But yeah, this is a great example of a stinky old book. Look at how messed up the pages are. Yeah. It's by Hector Bolitho. Let's see if we can find some of the other pictures. There you go. There's Ludwig Mond from the bronze statue at Winnington. People forget as well that old books have pictures in, so you're not just getting the text, you're also getting these other artifacts when you buy these and preserve them. There's a John Brunner and Ludwig Mond. They kind of look like Marx and Engels, don't they? These two. Big beards and those kind of heavy suits. Let's see what else we got. Typical, innit? Live stream reading books and we're just looking for all the pictures. Violet, Lady Melchett. The name Melchett kind of stands out to me as well. It just reminded me of Blackadder. It's not a common name you see very often. And in Blackadder, Stephen Fry plays the Melchett character, who's also, I think, Jewish. I think Stephen Fry's Jewish, isn't he? So that's appropriate. Nice little art imitating life. Or is it the other way around? So how's that been? Is that still going? All good on Rumble. Turbs says fantastic. And David Stevenson says, try using an Ethernet cable instead of Wi-Fi. That way other nearby Wi-Fi or Bluetooth cannot cross-contaminate the broadcast. Yeah, I think that is what I have to figure out a way to do that. I just don't know how to get the cable from the router to my bedroom. Not to my bedroom, to my office, sorry. Yes, this is not my bedroom. I don't sleep with all my books. I don't know how to get it here safely and properly. I might have to like pin it to the outside of the house and drill a hole in the wall and do it that way, because otherwise it's going to be going through like the door, the living room door and up the stairs, and I'm just going to have to pin it to the wall and it's going to look a bit crap. But yes, that is something I got to do. I got those adapters that allow you to run the internet signal through the wiring in the house, but the wiring in this house is pretty old and the speed was terrible, and it was really not going to work. Definitely not for the purposes of live streaming. But it seems like things are keeping up to speed, and we're not having any glitches yet. Let's check the old stats bar. Still all good on the stats. And YouTube says the stream health is healthy. The health is excellent. This is a healthy stream. So that's good. I think that means that the stream is healthy. Right, we've hit the 1 hour mark now. So we'll go back. We'll do a little bit more Brave New World Revisited. Got just something to do, innit? I know you're all enthralled about the ancestry of Mustafa Mond, Lord Melchett, Lord Alfred Mond, and I should mention as well his factories. Or at least the one that Aldous Huxley came to visit, I think was in Manchester, in the UK. So back to the section here on over-organization. Let's see. Oh, okay, we'll start on this page. This quote's pretty good down here. In order to fit into these organizations, individuals have had to de-individualize themselves, have had to deny their native diversity and conform to a standard pattern, have had to do their best to become automata. Yeah. So this is what happens, isn't it? You sign up to join some big organization, and then they set out, these are our values, and this is our mission and our objectives, and you have to fall in line with that. And if you don't, then you're not going to get promoted. You're not going to get the bonuses and the salary increases. You're kind of going to be left to stagnate, especially if it's a very big business and corporation. Alan Watts said before that people are told this sort of myth that if you just work really hard, you can work your way up in the system and get to some high, lofty levels of management and income. And the truth is that not everybody can do that because the number of roles that are available narrow as you get up, because it's a pyramid system, isn't it? So it's a very, very tiny amount of people at the top and a massive amount of people at the bottom. And so it's not that there's other factors at play other than just how hard you work. There's a lot of regulation, red tape. There's a lot of back scratching. You got to know the right handshakes. You got to belong to the right organizations. If you know each other from working together previously, from the same golf club, from the same Masonic lodge, all these things play in. If you're the same, like in the example we just read, the Jewish boy appealing to the Jewish merchant and getting helped out, and they get help from each other more easily because they're both Jewish, right? That's one group that does that. Other groups do the same thing as well. You see it in the Muslim community. I don't know if you see it so much in the Christian community these days because I'm not so much a practicing Christian, but I was brought up in that community. But I think the Christians have been sort of guilt tripped out of doing that because we've been kind of called racist and bigoted if we do that, right? If we have an in-group preference. But you see it all the time. Most groups will have an in-group preference and will take care of each other first and foremost before the people who don't belong to that group. It's just perfectly natural. You do it with your family, right? You do it with your colleagues. You do it with your friendship group. In-group preference is a thing. But unless you're a, white European or North American, in which case you're not allowed to do it, you nasty person. You need to let everybody in and be respectful and tolerate the diversity and enjoy the cultural enrichment. Celine Lyon says, none are more enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. That's from Wolfgang von Goethe. Frank says, gotta go, Nick. If the problems manifesting via the TV happen again, I will follow along on my Android phone instead. Awesome. And keep me updated, because I would like to know if it is a television issue. It would be a shame if people can't watch HEYS reviews on their massive high-definition 4K television screens, David says, tethering here from tablet using Smarty Network and coming through spot on. Good. Good to hear. As I said, we're on the hour and 11-minute mark, so it could start getting a little dicey in the next. We'll go for another hour, and we'll just see. I'm just going to put the music back on for a second and go and grab a drink. My throat's getting a little bit dry. I'll leave the book open so you can have a look at this page. It's got some good stuff on it. You can read ahead. And I'll be back one sec. Oh, I can't. Hang on. I'm going to have to go back to test screen here. There you see. I changed things, so it's kind of messed up a bit. I'll put the music back on for you while I'm doing that. Here we go. Be right back. that sound at the end of that guitar tune there was my wife yawning, and she did it at exactly the perfect moment. It was pretty impressive, totally unplanned. But it always gives me a chuckle when I listen to that bit and I can hear her yawning in the background, right at the perfect moment when the guitar music builds up, and then she just did a yawn right there. That's what it's like, when you're connected with somebody, you just have these synchronous moments. Okay, this is let's make that a bit smaller. So we're looking at dropping our pencil and picking it up. Over-organization. So people who belong to organizations have to de-individualize themselves, says Aldous Huxley, and they become automatons. The dehumanizing effects of over-organization are reinforced by the dehumanizing effects of overpopulation. Industry, as it expands, draws an ever greater proportion of humanity's increasing numbers into large cities. But life in large cities is not conducive to mental health. That point there about the cities not being conducive to mental health, that is echoed, repeated, stated in Between Two Ages as well. And what he says in Between Two Ages is people view each other, it's like you have a transactional relationship with each other. You just see each other as an economic function when you're in a city. That's the person that makes my coffee. That's the person who drives my bus. That's the person who gives me a ticket if I park in the wrong place without paying for parking. These kind of things. People just have an economic function. They're de-individualized. They're not really seen as human. And because there's so many of them, you can't really think of each one as human either, because we have that Dunbar's number limitation on our capacity for holding human relationships, which is about 150, I think, max. So shoving people into cities, chasing them off the land, incentivizing, it's tricky. I want to look more into how that's been done, but the message is often, people just go to cities because there's more opportunity. But you got to look at why there's no opportunity on the land and in the rural areas. What happened? And I think there's a lot more deliberate planning and machinations involved in pushing and gathering people up into these artificial beehives called cities. They're not for everybody and not for most people, I would argue. But yeah, it's not conducive to mental health to live in a large city. He says the highest incidence of schizophrenia, we are told, occurs among the swarming inhabitants of industrial slums. Nor does it foster the kind of responsible freedom within small self-governing groups, which is the first condition of a genuine democracy. So that bit as well was pretty amazing. The first condition of a genuine democracy, according to Aldous Huxley, consummate insider, is small self-governing groups. And you just you're not allowed really to have those anymore, because no matter what group you form and or you belong to, you still got to pay your taxes. You still got to obey the law. You're still going to get arrested and kidnapped and put in a cage if you break those laws. Good luck resisting any of that. Good luck banding together in your small self-governing group and saying, we're good, we're going our own way, thank you very much. We don't want your systems and your taxation and all the crap that it brings, right? So that sentence right there shows you what a mockery liberal democracy is in 2025. He says, city life is anonymous and, as it were, abstract. People are related to one another not as personalities, but as the embodiments of economic functions. There you go. Maybe I was misremembering and mixing up what Zbigniew Brzezinski says about it with what Huxley says about it. Because, that's it. You're an economic function. And when you're not at work, you're an irresponsible seeker of entertainment. So, I thought that bit was spot on. really, that assessment of, and that insight into what cities do to people and how it affects them, herding them into cities. Similar thing is said also in the Gerrymander book, Four Arguments for the Elimination of Television, because he says in that book that these artificial environments change people and affect people and make you behave differently. And I think it's pretty well known that people in cities walk faster and speak faster than the countryside people, who have a little slower pace, more in tune with nature and the day-night cycle and the sunrise and the sunset and those kinds of things. City people are conditioned and changed and altered by the environment that they're in, because you get changed, you get altered, you are affected, you are adjusted, to use this word here, perfectly adjusted by the environment and the technology that you are exposed to. There's a little bit here at the bottom as well. Civilization is, among other things, the process by which primitive packs are transformed into an analog, crude and mechanical, of the social insects' organic communities. Yeah, so there's this idea of... so there's an idea in next million years, I think. I'm questioning my memory now. I told you I have a crap memory. Forgetting where all these quotes come from. I think it's in the next million years, where he talks about making human society more like a termite mound or an ant hill or a hive of some kind. And that's what the city is. It's a sort of human hive. And here in my city, I've said before and shown and taken pictures of this and shared them in Telegram groups. The theme of the city is the bee. And everywhere you look, there's this motif of the bee, and it's on the bins and the bus stops, and it is on people's cars. They get stickers and stick it on their cars. And I've also got a little badge. So when you get married, or when you become a British citizen at the Manchester Register Office, they give you a little bee pin badge. And that is the motif that you see everywhere all the way throughout the city. And they're telling you that this city is a hive, and you are a drone, you're a worker, you are serving the queen, you are disposable, you are replaceable, you are one of a horde and a herd. That's what that is telling you, and people love it. People lap it up. They buy those stickers, stick them on their cars, put them in their living room windows. Think it's great. I think it's insulting, personally, but you don't get to vote on these things. So that's what he's saying. Civilization is an analog, a crude and mechanical copy of the social insects' organic communities. Oh, this is the one about termitery. See, I am getting my things mixed up. At the present time, the pressures of overpopulation and technological change are accelerating this process. The termitery has come to seem a realizable and even in some eyes a desirable ideal. And I just put whose eyes. Who's going around saying, oh, it'd be really great to reinvent human society and civilization along the grounds of a hive or a termite mound. And when you think about it, when you go into these cities and look at their high rises, they do kind of look like those termite mounds, those constructions that termites create, right? Which are amazing because they have air conditioning, because they capture the air and run the air through and cool things down. So they're amazing structures. But that's what's being recreated in our cities, in our skylines, and this type of architecture is really dominating and overbearing and designed to make people feel a bit uncomfortable and on edge and not very happy and not very relaxed. Let me go back to the book cam here. Now I'm really questioning my memory. I'm pretty sure he said something in here about termites and ants and this sort of thing. Should we try and find it? Watch Nick fail to show off his... Well, I'm succeeding to show off my terrible memory at this point. But if you look here, like the very first... Well, no, sorry, the second... After the introduction, the second chapter in this book is also population. These two books are really must-reads, in my opinion. This was 1953, and Brave New World Revisited is 1959. And they're really echoing the same sort of stuff all the way through. I would say Aldous Huxley's a little more sympathetic. He's a little more, the little tidbits that he drops in about a real democracy and about the importance of individual, the development of the individual, these kinds of things, they're totally absent. This book just reads like a bit psychopathic all the way through. But he does talk about, this bit was surprising. He's talking about population levels. He says, our insight into the matter has further been confused by the fact that at the present time we are threatened with a decreasing population in England and indeed in many of the countries inhabited by the white races. This is a very important phenomenon indeed, and it seems to contradict Malthus's principles. This is not what you expect to read, is it? Oh, the white races are decreasing in population. This was written in the 50s. When did the mass immigration start? When was that ramped up? When was that really switched on and ticked over into high gear? So it was quite, I didn't expect him to make that admission at all when I read this the first time. But that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for something about hive mind, not hive minds, but here we go. Okay, this might be it. So here's the bit they're talking about. He's talking about civilization. How similar these books are now. I've never looked at them, compared them side by side like this before, but that bit we were just reading in Brave New World Revisited was about civilization as well, wasn't it? So here he says, the word civilization signifies in its origin the mode of life connected with living in a city, and since there has been a great variety in the modes of life practiced in the different cities, it is reasonable to speak of many different civilizations. There are still very different modes of life in different parts of the world, but they are united throughout the world by the new knowledge and the new mode introduced by the scientific revolution. Yes, everything is standardized and homogenized for science and by science. There is really need for another word to replace the word civilization, a word which would connote the universality of the new culture, but no such word has come into use. Okay, so he's not talking about it in quite the same context as Huxley was. Let's have a look. So here he's talking about a revolution ending in irreversible change in the ways of life. So he says the essential feature of a revolution is that there should be an irreversible change in the ways of life. So this is just reminding me of another book that I just finished reading inside the book club, which is The First Global Revolution. So remember that whenever you see the word revolution, what is actually being said to you is irreversible change in the ways of life. So when these boys are coming with their book in 1991 saying this revolution is going to hit the globe, it means everyone everywhere is going to be hit with irreversible changes in the ways of life. And that is further backed up and outlined in Between Two Ages when he talks about the technotronic era. There it is on the cover. And all the different ways that technology has been rolled out, and it's irreversible at this point. We can't go back. We're not putting the smartphones and the AI and the connectivity and the convenience and Uber and justeat.co.uk, and all these other conveniences that we now have. We're going to be hard pressed to get rid of those. Although I would argue the people who can get rid of those and become more self-sufficient probably have a better chance at surviving off into the future. But that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for something about... this is the bit where he talks about making food from wood or grass. to solve the world hunger problem, maybe it might be possible to turn grass or wood into a satisfactory human diet. I don't know, though. If it's grass, wood, or crickets and bugs and insects, what would you pick? There's another bit here about another imaginable revolution. And this is about, he kind of foreshadows AI. He talks about high-speed calculating machines far beyond anything the human mind can aspire to achieve directly. So what was that you were saying about glorified calculators? Yeah, he was talking about it in this book. He talks about scientific weather forecasting. He didn't mention weather control, but not here anyway. So material conditions, this section. That's not what we're looking for, I don't think. Oh, this bit he talks about creating rain. So he does talk about weather modification in here. He talks about it's well known that you can use carbon dioxide powder to trigger rainfall. But then here he says it doesn't look likely that man can ever do anything about directly altering his climates. So he's a climate change denier. But he does talk about the exhaustion of fuel resources, coal and oil. So back in the 50s, foreshadowing, the climate, fossil fuel crisis and the requirement to go to net zero. He's talking about water power as well being used instead. And this bit he talks about hormonal injections altering the intellectual and moral natures of individuals. And choosing in advance the sex of each child that's going to be born, and whether or not that decision is made by the parents or by their rulers. Yeah, it could be the rulers, right? You're having a boy, you're having a girl. Yeah, so it could be that I am misremembering, and it is not in this book about the hive way of life for humanity. But you can see why I get these two books mixed up, right? In my defense, they're very, very similar. What's going on this page? Something about socialism, population density. Let's go to the next tab. Something about Kalergi's Negroid race of Europe. That's what I've written in the margin. Oh, right, yeah. So he's talking about in a million years what's Homo sapiens going to look like. And he says the end man, so the man who exists in a million years, the complexion will be rather dark all over the world. And that just reminded me of Kalergi's Negroid race of Europe in his book Practical Idealism. Let's see. The sinner has advantages over the saint. Oh yeah, and this funny bit here about Homo sapiens will have changed into Homo pedophilus, which that didn't age well. Oh yeah, and this is another bit about civilization and cities and civilization has taught man how to live in dense crowds. And by that very fact, these crowds are likely ultimately to constitute a majority of the world's population. So he's telling you that most people are going to be in cities. Already there are many who prefer this crowded life, but there are others who do not. And these will be gradually eliminated. So if you don't like the crowded life of the cities, you're getting eliminated, according to Charles Galton Darwin. He says, life in the crowded condition of cities has many unattractive features, but in the long run, these may be overcome. Not so much by altering the unattractive features, but simply by changing the human race into liking them. So crazily aligned with Huxley. So you can see, I think, please forgive me for getting these books mixed up. Let's have a look. So this bit's about creeds. So he's kind of like, creeds are like memes and belief systems. And he has a little bit about what they're going to look like and how they're going to change. Let's see what's next. This is creeds as well. Oh, this is sheeps and goats, right? This is pretty interesting, this bit. Stream's still going good, everybody, hopefully. We got a few people on Rumble. We got a few people on YouTube. So hopefully it's going well still. He says here, another feature of creeds seems to be rather general. Though the majority of a population, say something like 9/10, accept their creed implicitly and regard it as a part of their law of nature, there is always a small minority who do not. I'd say we here on this channel are probably in this small minority. The he's talking here about most people go along with the program. Most people just accept their conditioning and their value structure, and you drink your beer and you watch your sports and you believe in your government and you go to church and you do all the things that everybody does, and you don't question it. You just do it. That's most people. That's 9/10 of people. But there's 1/10 who do not. Now he continues. Most people, call them sheep. His word, not mine. Follow the ideas of their leaders unquestioningly. But this minority, the goats, the greatest of all. GOAT, if you don't know, is an acronym for greatest of all time. It's also a symbol for the devil. But yeah, we're goats, according to Charles Galton Darwin. The goats go by contraries and disbelieves anything just because those around them believe it. So you're a contrarian. The goats are often not very pleasant people. Bit harsh. I don't agree with him on that point. But they are usually above the average of intelligence. There you go. Thank you very much, Charles Galton Darwin. It is probably the corroding influence of the goats that gradually saps the vitality of a creed by its cumulative infection. And indeed, there may well be a proportionality between the number of goats in a community and the lifespan of the creed of the sheep in that community. So there you are. If you are out there questioning things and being, what's the word he uses? Contrarian. If you're a contrarian, if you're kicking back a little bit and asking questions and not going along with the sheep, you are having a corrosive effect, and you can have an effect on the vitality of this creed that is infecting the minds of all the sheep around you. And it is a cumulative infection. So keep going, keep asking questions, keep dropping and planting those seeds, right? Because it does make a difference over the long term. So let's carry on a little bit. What else we got? And this is a whistle-stop tour of the next million years. Oh, this is the bit about breeding the feeble-minded. Man, a wild animal. Yeah, so what he talks about, what he says in this book is that most humans are going to be domesticated, but if they are to be domesticated, it implies a group of humans which are undomesticated that will do the domesticating of the masses. So it's kind of like the sheep and the the sheep and the farmer type of situation. You got the farmer, the sheep dogs, that's one farmer, maybe a pack of dogs, and then you got however many hundreds of sheep can be controlled and herded and moved around with that system. And that's what he's saying. He's saying the wild men, the undomesticated, the untamed men are going to be the ones who control the masses, everybody else, the domesticated masses. So that bit's pretty interesting. Here we go. Maybe my memory is not so bad after all. Let's go back a little bit. Let's read this bit about the... Right, so he says... He's going to give an example which has the advantage of not being fabulous. I don't know when not being fabulous is an advantage, but I like the way you worded that. In their studies of how to improve the human race, the eugenists have very naturally considered both ends of their problem. Meaning, let's see, the increasing, so meaning eugenics and dysgenics, right? So eugenics, hey, Hermit Tramp, what's going on, sir? This is just a test, but it's actually turning into a pretty interesting live stream, if I do say so myself. I'm testing my memory, and we're going through Aldous Huxley's Brave New World Revisited, and we're comparing it with Next Million Years, Charles Galton Darwin. So what he says here is the eugenists, how do you improve and increase the desired traits, and how do you get rid of the undesired traits? Okay. He says, so the increase in good qualities and the elimination of bad qualities. Only we know, he doesn't say it, but we know that they increase the qualities that they consider desirable. So by good qualities, they'll consider like, psychopathy, brutality, callous cold-bloodedness, ruthlessness. These are the good qualities, because these are the qualities that allow you to amass wealth and resources and hold on to it intergenerationally so that you can build up that power and that influence, right? So they're the good, quote-unquote, good qualities. And then the bad qualities that they want to get rid of and eliminate, just like the people who don't want to live in cities are going to be eliminated. The bad qualities are, things like love, kindness, compassion, generosity, loyalty, decency, humility, self-sacrifice, heroism, all these things that they want to get rid of that, because that's what gets in the way of them achieving their goals and their aims, which is total domination and control of everybody forever. So that's what good and bad qualities don't project what you think good and bad qualities are onto his sentence here. You got to know kind of how these psychopathic elites sort of think. And I'll just say as well, as a side note, if you look up a picture of Charles Galton Darwin, he has the deadest of dead eyes. In fact, let me give you a little look into the deadest of dead eyes. Now, how can I do it? I'm going to have to pull up an image for you here. Bear with me a second, please. These are tangents on tangents on tangents tonight. But seeing as this is not a real live stream, quote unquote, proper live stream, we can do that. We can just fly around going in all sorts of directions wherever we feel like it. Now I'm looking for an image, and I think it's going to be, I should know exactly where it is, but I don't. It's for my little email series lead magnet that I made called Continuity of Control, which actually has some of these quotes that we're looking at now included in it. But I can't remember where I saved the darn thing. Where did I put it? It's got to be around here somewhere. Oh, here we go. Pictures. Here we go. Okay, goodness me. Right, check this out, ladies and gentlemen. Go over here. So this is the image for Continuity of Control that I made. You might recognize some of these terrifying men. And we'll zoom in a little bit, because who doesn't want to zoom in on these faces? So, and I just lined up their eyes like that. And if you look, we got Charles Galton Darwin here. He's on column number 4. That is one of the most dead eyes in this whole thing, in my opinion. Even more dead than Huxley's eye, which is literally dead because he had like a disease that made him blind for a while. But that dead eye, that is the kind of dead eye that's going to watch you like be tortured to death and have no inkling of concern or compassion or care for that happening. Mind you, Bertrand Russell looks a bit like that as well, doesn't he? He's kind of got that going on too. The only one who really has a bit of life in there, doesn't look totally evil, is really Carol Quigley, which is interesting. But yeah, he's got a dead eye as Charles Galton Darwin, a serious dead eye. So we shouldn't be surprised when he's saying these things so casually. So when he says good qualities and bad qualities, they're not the same as what you think. They're probably, very likely, not the same as what you think of good qualities and bad qualities. But to continue, he says, the eugenicists, their chief effort has gone, quite rightly at first, into the easy part of the problem, and they have spent most of their energy in pointing out the disastrous tendencies of the present policy of directly encouraging the breeding of the feeble-minded. So the present policy in that time was the directly encouraging the breeding of the feeble-minded. And he's probably talking about here about the socialist support systems that were being put in place at the end of World War II, by largely encouraged and promoted by and designed by the Fabian socialists, right? And their creation of the Labour Party and the Labour Party's first sort of run at running the country right after World War II. And I think that's what he's talking about here. When all these policies came in to help poor people and these families and build the NHS and keep them a little better off than they had been, he calls this a disastrous tendency because we're directly encouraging the breeding of the feeble-minded. But continuing, he says, this is undoubtedly useful work, but it's comparatively easy since these feeble-minded can be regarded objectively by their superiors, and so might become amenable to the same sort of control as is applicable to domestic animals. There you go. So because you're feeble-minded, if you accept this control over your lives, the same kind of controls that you would put on a domestic animal, that signifies your feeble-mindedness. And this is why there's sheep and there's goats, right? Most sheep are going to accept it, go along with it, and just be like, yeah, I do want daddy government and mummy government to tell me what to do and how to think and how to live my life and to repair the roads for me and to keep the bad guys away for me, even though they're just importing more and more bad guys like year after year after year. But that's the kind of mentality that these sort of elite have is that, well, you're letting us do this to you, therefore you are feeble-minded and you are everything that we say you are. Like, you're letting us do this. We're telling you we're doing it. We're writing books about it and publishing them. And then it happens. As we said, we're going to do it, and you do nothing to stop us. And of course, it's not that simple. But that is, I think, part of their attitude is like, well, we told you we were going to do it. You let us do it anyway. So it's kind of your fault and you deserve it, therefore. So you're going to get the same sort of control as is applicable to domestic animals. Celine Lyon says, the contradiction of thinking that your oppressor will participate in your liberation. Yeah. Where's that quote from, please, if you don't mind? I know you put it in inverted commas, so I guess it's a quote from somewhere. But yeah, it is a contradiction of thinking that. Going back to the book, he says, this restraint of the breeding of the feeble-minded is important, and it must never be neglected, but it cannot be regarded as a really effective way of improving the human race. If by analogy one wished to improve the breed of racehorses, one might accomplish a little by always slaughtering the horse that finished last in every race, but it would be a much slower process than the actual one of sending the winner to the stud farm. Just amazing. They're just writing this with a straight face and a dead eye. It's just staggering. He says the only imaginable way of overcoming these difficulties would be to set up a class of consultants who would prescribe what marriages were eugenically admissible and how large the consequent families should be. But this does not solve the difficulty, it only pushes it back a stage, for it leaves unanswered the question who are to be the consultants and what principles are to guide them in settling the values of the different qualities of mankind. It comes back to just the difficulty I described in my fable, that a tame animal must have a master, and that therefore, though it might conceivably be possible to tame the majority of mankind, this could only be done by leaving untamed a minority of the population, that is your dominant minority or your elite. Moreover, this minority would have to be the group possessing the most superior qualities of all. Now, he does go on in his defense to say, this is well, people will never sign up for this and accept this. It's not possible. It's not going to happen. But this is really what has always been happening. So down here, he comes to the topic of civilization. He says, these examples suggest the impossibility of taming mankind as a whole, but before accepting the principle fully, it's proper to examine a case where the exact contrary has happened. This is in the insect civilizations of the ants or termites. In applying the same term, civilization, to both ants and men, it is hardly necessary to say that I am drawing an analogy between things which are really of a very different quality. All species of ants live in cities, and some species have developed agriculture, others animal husbandry, but all these practices are purely instinctive and individual to each species. On the other hand, human civilization is an acquired character based on education, and so is not inherent in man's nature. Well, got to pause there and like, okay, whoa, rewind a second. Civilization is not inherent in man's nature. Man's nature, then, he's saying, is not to build cities and organize under these ideologies into groups that are millions, billions in size, right? It's Dunbar's number. That's man's nature. Man's nature is 100, 150 people, a small, tight-knit community. The adults look after the children. The elderly look after the children. The adults go out and fix the huts and grow the food and hunt the animals, prepare the food. And at night, you sit around the fire telling stories and dancing around, right? That's man's nature. And there's a little more complexity to it than that. I'm oversimplifying, but that's our nature. All the other stuff is unnatural for man. The city life, the corporate life, the 9 to 5, the education system, the indoctrination, the paying taxes, all of this is unnatural. All of this has been done to us by this untamed, psychopathic, dominant minority, you know. So that's quite an important point. I think he's telling the truth there. This is not inherent. Civilization is not inherent in man's nature. Because what do you think of when you think of civilization? It's like, you might think of like cathedrals, you might think of skyscrapers perhaps, or big, you know, the Great Wall of China, these big monuments, these big sort of feats of engineering and construction. That's civilization. The pyramids or the temples or the Taj Mahal or whatever it is. All that stuff's made by slaves. It's made by a bunch of people who were born into a situation where they had no choice but to spend their life making some petty tyrant's dream come true. And often they would be working on that stuff and it would take longer than the average lifespan. So it'd be a multi-generational thing to get some of these buildings done in the past. And it was done through a system of enslavement, and that was done through a system of money and finance and usury. And that enabled a system of a monopoly on violence to be established, because you could just pay people to be the violent ones, the thugs, otherwise known as police and military. So it's all unnatural, and it is all not inherent in man's nature. So it's been done to us, and it's been done by design. And that's quite a startling admission that he's put in there, that he's just thrown in there. I didn't seize on that so much, I don't think, the first time I read it, but that's why it's always good to go back and reread these things, and you see them with new eyes, and you've learned new things in the meantime, and you get new interpretations of what's written. So let's continue, though. It may be worthwhile to follow out the analogy a little further. Admitting the different sense of the words, it may be said that all species of ants have made the third revolution, the invention of cities, and some have made the second, agriculture, none the first or fourth, fire and science. But they have all added another revolution of their own, the complete control of the problem of sex. The ant's nest has no rulers at all, for the queen is hardly more than an egg-laying mechanism, and they seem to get on perfectly well without civil servants or lawyers or captains of industry. Why cannot man set up a community like an ant's nest? There you go. It is not my memory confusing these two books. It's that both authors talk about the same thing in the books. That's a relief. Here I am embarrassing myself with my poor memory on live on the internet to about 15 people. Oh, 16. Sweet. And actually, I was right. It's just mentioned in both books. There you go. So yeah, why cannot man set up a community like an ant's nest? This would be the ideal of the anarchist. And so there you are, anarchists out there. I bet you didn't know that the ant's nest was the ideal, did you? It held no promise at all of success, but with the help of recent and probable future biological discoveries, some sort of imitation by man of the ant's nest cannot be quite excluded from consideration. Thus, the control of the numbers of the two sexes may become possible, and with the knowledge of the various sexual hormones, it might also become possible to free the majority of mankind from the urgency of sexual impulse, so that they could live contented, celibate lives instead of the unsatisfied celibate lives that are the compulsory lot of such a large fraction of the present population of the world. I put incels in the margin there. Wouldn't it be nice to be freed from your sexual impulse? So the thing that blows my mind about this is that it's been done and it's happened. And I mean, obviously not for everybody, you know, there's still people out there getting married, having babies. But you've got this phenomenon going on, like in Japan, for example, where a lot of young people just shut in and play computer games, and they're not interested in marriage and procreation. And I know people who have young people in their families who are like that. They don't go anywhere, they don't do anything, stay at home. They might have a job, you know, earn a bit of money, but in their free time, it's stay at home, play the computer games, not out, not going to meet people, to you know, dance, flirt, hook up, whatever. Just none of that is interesting or appealing. The internal drive has been crushed, destroyed, eradicated. It's been wiped out. They are free from the urgency of sexual impulse, a lot of young people these days. And it's, it seems to be happening more so in, as he said at the start of the book, the white populations. It seems to have been rolled out to the white populations and the Japanese. And I think a similar thing's going on in Korea as well, which is quite interesting to know which countries and where it's happening. And this is covered in detail in this book, which is actually a trilogy of books, but this is the second in the trilogy I read recently. It's The Blackening of Europe. Let's see if we can dig up some statistics, because there's a lot of footnotes and data and statistics. This is a very alarming read. Oh, this is the wrong one. Oh, no, it's not. I just got confused. This is volume 2, but I just got confused because it says part 3 right here, because volume 1 has parts 1 and 2. So this is volume 2. It's the right book, but it's part 3. So this first part of this book is part 7, and immigration and Islam demographics. And you got to read some of this stuff. Let's go to United Kingdom, page 13. And yeah, I'll just read this. It speaks for itself. You don't need me to interpret it. So, United Kingdom. The UK has a population of 63.4 million and a landmass of 243,610 kilometers squared. The total fertility rate in 2013 was 1.83, which is comparable to 2.43 in 1970, right? So in 43 years, it's gone from, the total fertility rate has gone from 2.43, 2.4 children, which that's replacement levels, down to 1.83. This means that the UK, like Belgium, has below replacement fertility. There is also a negative correlation between the percentage of young and the percentage of the elderly over time. Persons aged between 0 and 15 years of age in 1970 accounted for 24.1% of the total population, and by 2014 this age group accounted for only 17.8%. Persons over the age of 65 constituted 13.03% of the population in 1970, but by 2014 increased to 17.26%. The UK is aging and not producing enough children to replace its population. In the 60s and up until the early 1980s, more people left the United Kingdom than entered. But as figure 4 below shows, by 1983, net migration was 100, and steadily climbed to 77,000 in 1994. Since the late 1990s, net migration has risen to over 100,000 per year, ranging from 140,000 in 1998 to 323,000 in 2015. Over half of the population growth in the UK is from net immigration and is projected to contribute more than 5 million to population growth in the next 25 years. So that graph, that staggering line firing up there, beginning in 1983, starting with less than 50,000 a year, and now we're at over 300,000. And that was 28. This only goes to 2015. So this only goes 10 years ago. This stops there. I guess that's the only data that was available when she wrote it. She says, as mentioned in chapter 3, after World War II, the Labour government in post-war Britain recruited cheap labour from former colonies in the Commonwealth, namely the West Indies, Bangladesh, Pakistan and India. And remember, the Labour government formed by Fabian socialists. Between the British Nationality Act of 1948 and the Commonwealth Immigrations Act of 1962, citizens of Commonwealth countries were granted the right of entry or the right to settle and work in the United Kingdom. As a response to the large volumes of immigrants arriving from the Commonwealth, alongside the closure of many industrial sites, the economic recession and violent ethnic conflicts, by the 70s, this right of entry was replaced with temporary work permits, which restricted Commonwealth immigration. But like Belgium and elsewhere in Europe, the initial post-war labour migrants became permanently settled, and with the enactment of temporary work permits, as well as family reunification and refugee laws, immigrant populations continue to grow in the UK. Illegal immigrants also make up a large portion of non-British peoples in the UK. It's estimated that they constitute around 800,000 to 910,000, or 1.4% of the total population. As discussed in Chapter 2, In the late 90s, Labour initiated an open-door policy of mass immigration, particularly in terms of family reunification, refugee laws, and other liberal immigration policies. Unlike Belgium and the EU as a whole, the majority of immigrants in the UK over the last decade have arrived for work or educational reasons, although the work category also includes those looking for work and not just those who have been guaranteed work, the latter of which are generally understood as highly skilled workers. Table 4 below shows the main reasons for long-term international immigration to the UK per year. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to find the info that I wanted to highlight, which is birth rates. I'm sure they had a bit in here about birth rates. It might be in a different part of the book. Let's see. Because they talk about the birth rates of the native population. Oh, it might be this section, section 9, United Kingdom Muslim immigration, page 90. Let's try that. It's a fantastic, very detailed, well-referenced book. I encourage everybody to grab it. And I've said it before, what I really like is that the footnotes are on the bottom of the page, so you don't have to keep flicking to the back of the book all the time. They're just right there, which is helpful. Okay, so United Kingdom. In 1950, the Muslim population in the United Kingdom was about 100,000. By 2010, there were almost 2.5 million, many of Pakistani descent. This means that in just 60 years, the Muslim population in the UK increased by about 2,400%. In the 2001 census, most Pakistanis, 92%, identified as Muslim and accounted for less than half, 43%, of Great Britain's Muslims. The other largest Muslim populations included Bangladeshi, Indian, Black African, other white, and other Asian, and white British. In January 2006, the Muslim population of Britain had reached over 3 million and over half were foreign-born. It has been estimated that by 2030, Muslims will make up 8.2% of the total population, or 5.567 million individuals. In 2007, Open Society reported that in England and Wales, Muslims are the largest minority faith group and have the youngest demographic profile as a faith group. That's the bit I wanted to point out, the youngest demographic. Over 60% were under 30 years of age. So contrast that with what they said in that other chapter that I the other part that I read out. Replacement levels is 1 point whatever it was. We got fewer young people and a lot more old people. But if you look at the Muslim minority groups, they've got 60% under 30 years of age. They are pumping out young people with no problems at all. So it's interesting, isn't it? What is causing that and why is that happening? Let's see if there's a little bit more on this. Yeah, here we go. So this section, between 2005 2010, the Muslim fertility rate in Britain was 3.0, which is much higher than the national average of 1.8. This high fertility rate, as well as high rates of immigration, family reunification, and marriage migration, led in 2011 to 9.1% of all children under 5 years old in Britain being Muslim. About half of Muslims in Britain are under the age of 25. Muhammad has become the most popular baby name in the capital of Britain, London, which first occurred in 2012, and this is partly why London is referred to as Londonistan. In 2013 and 14, the Office for National Statistics reported that Oliver was the most popular baby name in England and Wales. Muhammad, Mohammed, and Mohammad were the 15th, 23rd, and 57th most popular baby names in 2013, and in 2014, they were the 14th, 27th, and 56th. This is misleading, however. In 2008, Max Hastings, writing for Mail Online, claimed that Mohammed was already the third most popular choice for boy children in England, and that the ONS, rather than using all the various spellings of Mohammed, had catalogued them separately. Accounting for the various spellings, Muhammad, Mohammed, etc., you can see them all there. There's like 12 different spellings. By 2009, Mohammed was the most popular name given for baby boys in England and Wales. A total of 7,549 newborns were given 12 variations of this name, and the second most popular name was Oliver, given to 7,364 babies. So that's the thing that's quite... I won't read any more of that because you should buy it and support the author. But the whole thing is pretty alarming and amazing, and just describes what's going on and explains why you see what you see when you're out and about and traveling around and going up and down the country and going to various places in the country. So for Charles Galton Darwin in his 1953 book to tell you that whites were on the decline, it's pretty it's pretty amazing, really. And that there's going to be some tinkering and tampering with people to make them free from the urgency of sexual impulse, to live contented, celibate lives. That is literally happening. But it's not happening to everyone. It's not happening to all the groups and all the religions and all the different nationalities. It's happening in some places to some groups and some nationalities. That's the point that I'm trying to make. So that was a long tangent, but we found it. Why? There it is. Why? I'll read it again. Why cannot man set up a community like an ant's nest? Boom. My memory is not as terrible as I thought it was. What a relief. We could go back to Brave New World for a little bit now. I might have a little sip. Turb says on Rumble that we're still in sync. Good. So, and on YouTube as well. Looks to me like we're still in sync. Celine Lyon says the quote is from Dr. Henrik Clark. I'll read it again. The contradiction of thinking that your oppressor will participate in your liberation. That's the quote. Doris says, truth. The more intelligent groups of people, the white and the Japanese, seem to be ones who are living contented lives of celibacy now. Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Doris says, guess who said this? I wish I could live 1,000 years to watch this all develop. The rise of Russia, the rise of China, the Muslimization of Europe. Who said that? First person who popped into my mind was Prince Philip. George Carlin. Was it? I have to ask for a source on that one because that is mental. But I believe you. I do believe you. I'm going to look it up quickly just to double check. Did he say it on one of his live things, or did he write some books? I think he wrote some books, didn't he? Doris has got the audio. That is awesome. Can you send that to me? I've got a new email address, by the way. It's nick@heysreviews.com. Nice and easy to remember. nick@heysreviews.com. Send me that audio. I would like to hear that. I was a huge George Carlin fan. I still am. Still got some good stuff going on. Oh, A World of My Own has left a comment over on Entropy saying, Henry Mond, 2nd Baron Melchett, Baron, Member of Parliament for Liverpool, East Toxteth, in office 19th of March. Oh yeah, it was Liverpudlian, wasn't he? He wasn't Mancunian. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So yeah, it looks like we're good on all these channels. We've been going for 1 hour 47 now. I'll put a bit of music back on for a minute and just check everybody's all right in the other rooms. But this doesn't. We don't seem to be having the problem that we had before. I'm going to have a look at the stats. Oh, I just clicked on it. Where did it appear? Where's the stats? Stats still look fantastic. Right, I'm going to put the music back on for a little bit. I'll be back in a moment. See you soon. Search the anti-white hatred of George Carlin. I will. Let's see what it comes up with. Oh, well, Brave's AI agent who's answering the question tells me that the claim that George Carlin harbored anti-white hatred is a perspective held by far-right and extremist platforms, but is not widely supported by mainstream scholars and critics. Well, I mean, you can still enjoy his, he was still funny. I get it that, like the singer from Lost Prophets was an evil pedophile, but the first album was still pretty good. I'm not going to go out and like proselytize and evangelize for Lost Prophets and or George Carlin, but they still put out some good stuff. But, George Carlin probably had a team behind him, probably had a team of people writing his jokes for him. How much work is done by any of the household names, the celebrities, the talking heads, the comedians that get given to us, right? I'm sure they all have teams behind them, managing them, their image, how they look, what they say. Because George Carlin was so prolific. He was doing a new hour of comedy every year. I mean, I've never tried to sit down and write an hour of comedy, but I'm sure I wouldn't be able to get it done at that pace and that rate without a team behind me. So, Doris says you'll find it on a website like YouTube, but leans a bit more in the other direction. If I name it, my comment won't get through. It's not bad news. I'm not emotionally attached to these characters. I know that they're all characters. They're all actors. They're all given to us to shape and mold our minds and our feelings and our worldviews and our opinions and our ideas about things. But Dave Chappelle, he's legit, right? He's real. I'll keep an eye out for that email. Thank you very much, Doris. I appreciate it. So we got 7 on YouTube. We've got 5 on Rumble. What do you want to see? What do you want me to do next? Any questions? Anything you want me to talk about? Put it in the chat. I'll show you this book that I got. It's a new book I've never displayed on the live stream before. This is Ancestors of American Presidents, compiled by Gary Boyd Roberts. This is there's multiple versions of this book because it was updated as more presidents came along, and so they can get kind of pricey. But I just found this one for £7, so I snapped it because some of them are like 50, 60 quid, some of these copies, and the later ones and the later editions. This is the first edition. It's in really nice condition though. Ancestors of American Presidents, first authoritative edition, with charts drawn by Julie Helen Otto. It's a 1995 book, as you can see down there. So this is kind of showing you that pretty much all American presidents are actually members of elite bloodline. I haven't even looked in this book yet. So where should we start? What should we dive into? We got Ancestor Tables of American Presidents on page 1. Bibliography or the list of sources. Oh, good. I'm glad we've got sources. Presidential royal descents, the best line through each royally descended presidential immigrant ancestor. Royal descents of first ladies as well. And charts outlining kinships among American presidents. Should we go for that? Kinships? Because you hear often that they're like related. They're all related to each other, don't you? So, kinship. It's a nice way of saying incest. We've got to look out for our kin. All right. So we've got 89 charts outlining kinships among American presidents. I'm getting a bit of a weird thing in my neck from looking at a strange angle. Let me just move things around a bit here. Right. So Henry Squire, never heard of them. Henry Spencer. I'm going to try and find one that I've heard of. But I'm not very good at American presidents. Oh, we got Roosevelt here. These are quite nice to look at. I like the handwritten style that they've done. Oh, so we got George Herbert Walker Bush. All right, let's have a look at this one. So we've got Daniel Brewer, 1646, Roxbury. I guess Mass is Massachusetts. I don't know. And he married Joanna something or other, and they had 3 children. One of them was probably Hannah Brewer. Now, Daniel Brewer Jr. was an ancestor of Franklin Pierce, who was the 14th U.S. president. Hannah Brewer, probably Hannah Brewer, was an ancestor of Rutherford Burchard Hayes, who was the 19th U.S. president. And then Sarah Brewer, I didn't know they had a president called Hayes, 1822 to 1893. And then Sarah Brewer is an ancestor of George Herbert Walker Bush, the 41st U.S. president. Interesting. What else we got? Okay, here's one I know. Here's a famous one. Abraham Lincoln, 16th U.S. president. We all know him, Honest Abe. His ancestor, if you go all the way back, is someone called Edward Gilman, 1557, I think, Norfolk and Hingham, England. So that's my neck of the woods. Don't know who his wife was, but he had 3 offspring, Bridget, Edward, and Mary Gilman. Bridget Gilman was an ancestor of Abraham Lincoln. Edward Gilman, ancestor of Leslie Lynch King Jr., whose name was changed to Gerald Rudolph Ford Jr., 38th U.S. president. What? So Leslie Lynch King became Gerald Ford Rudolph. And Mary Gilman was an ancestor of George Herbert Walker Bush, the 41st. So he appeared on the other page as well, didn't he? Pretty interesting. All right, we'll do another one. So this is page 257. We got Ulysses Simpson Grant. I didn't know the S in Ulysses S. Grant stood for Simpson. I didn't know that. Ulysses Simpson Grant was the 18th U.S. president. His great ancestor was Jacques Le Mahieu of Leyden, Holland. Le Mahieu. Now, this one's a little more complicated than the other ones we were looking at because there's all sorts of overlaps. But Le Mahieu, he had offspring, probably Marie Le Mahieu and Hester Le Mahieu. And Marie went on to have, what is this, like Jam? I don't even know how you read these things. Jam de Lannoy. Is that son? No, that's Mary, isn't it? Because it's an equal sign. So they had Philip Delano of Duxbury, who got with Hester Dewsbury. They had Jonathan Delano, and who got with Mercy Warren. And they had Jonathan Delano Jr. and Thomas Delano. Thomas Delano got with Jean Peckham. They had Ephraim Delano, who got with Elizabeth Cushman. They had Warren Delano, who got with Deborah Church, who was an ancestor of Marie Le Mahieu's sister, Hester. If you're listening to this and not following along with the diagram, then this is going to be the most boring thing you've ever heard. But all that to say that this ancestor is shared by Ulysses S. Grant, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and George Herbert Walker Bush. George Herbert Walker Bush is on all of these. He's on this one, on this page here. He's not on this one, but he is on this one here. This is nuts. So, quite an interesting artifact that I just got through the post today. Only cost me £7. £7. You can't knock that. You really can't. Let's have a quick look at the bibliography, 135. So yeah, this idea that anyone can become just work really hard and you could be one day you can be the president of the United States. Not really. It's not really how it works. So that's a list of abbreviations. Or preceded by a list of abbreviations. Got it. All right, bibliography. George Washington. Goodness me. That is a lot of books. And it's not arranged in a way that's particularly easy to read either. But at least it gives you them by president. So you could look up, I don't know, we'll look up, what's he called? That guy we were just seeing. We'll look up Bush. See what the sources are on him. I assume these are chronological. Which means, yeah, so. George Herbert Walker Bush. Oh, hang on, these are, I've left that section. Bibliography. Who puts the bibliography halfway through the book? It's crazy. William Jefferson Clinton. Maybe the bibliography only go. Oh, here we go. George Herbert Walker Bush has 3 pages of literally 3 pages of 4.5 pages of a bibliography backing up where it's come from, where this information has come from. They got page numbers as well. They got publication dates. For example, this one is Andrew Newcomb and His Descendants, 1923, and the page numbers. There's another one here. Samuel May. Oh, I think they're the authors. Descendants of John May of Roxbury, Massachusetts, 1648, second edition, and the page numbers. So, Stevens genealogy, lineage from Henry Stevens or Stevens of Stonington, Connecticut, 1909, page 20 to 30. Gallup genealogy. So pretty legit, pretty well sourced and referenced. There's the second page. There's the third page. There's the fourth page. These are all sources backing up the ancestry and the lineage of George Herbert Walker Bush. Now, I think I'm right in saying that this only goes up to Bill Clinton, because like I said, it was published in 1995. It's probably why it's a bit cheaper, because there's been updated. I think the most recent one includes Obama. I don't know if they've brought out a version that talks about Trump, for example. But there you go. There's another little artifact. You might never have heard it. You might be interested in grabbing a copy of that when people tell you. But we live in a democracy, and we get to vote for the president, and the best and brightest rise to the top. And if you work hard enough, even you could be president one day. No, that is false. That is fake news. Oh, I feel like I can't have just no book on display. So are we still in sync? Is everything still going smoothly? We haven't had a problem yet. It doesn't look like it. It looks like the stream is still going smoothly. Which is good in a way. But it's frustrating because I feel like if I sit down to do the next session on Brzezinski's Between Two Ages, I feel like the problem would just come back. So this is kind of frustrating to me that it's working fine. I'm glad it's working fine, but it's also kind of annoying. Because I can't account for it. How long have we been going now? We've been going 2 hours now. Well, we've been streaming 2 hours, 25 minutes. I've just been recording for 2 hours. So we're coming up on that 2.5 hour mark, and we haven't had any problems. So, could be that I have managed to fix the problem, and our next live stream, we should be able to go the full distance, the full 3 hours if we want to. Doris says, how many platforms are you streaming to today, Nick? I am streaming to Rumble and YouTube. I cut the Odyssey stream because it was just garbled crap. it was, it was stuttering and it wasn't working. So I just cut it. Do you think that might be what's causing the smooth broadcast that we are enjoying right now? I think you might have mentioned that before, actually, as a potential problem. But yeah, just YouTube, and then just YouTube and Rumble, and then we've got Entropy as well. But Entropy just rebroadcasts the stream from Rumble, so I'm not going direct to Entropy. But I didn't think streaming it to more platforms would. So maybe that's the test that I need to do. Oh, actually, we restart the Odyssey one. No, I can't really do another 2 hours now. It's getting late. It's getting late, and I've got some errands to do because we're going to London tomorrow, like I said. So that could be it then. Maybe the problem is multiple platforms. Maybe I just quit streaming to Odyssey. We usually don't get a lot of people watching on there anyway. And I'll just upload the replay after it's done. That might be the way forward. Because I still feel like there's something a bit strange going on. I need to figure out how to plug it in by Ethernet. That's step one. Step two might be I just abandon streaming to Odyssey and upload it there afterwards. Upload the replay there, which is fine. It's an extra step. And actually, the streaming there has been so choppy and useless that I've been re-uploading the replay after every live stream anyway. I just like to have multiple options for people to view, and I do prefer Odyssey as a platform. But I think it's been taken over at this point as well, like everything. I don't think there's any good free place to stream anymore, really. There could be tinkering in the background by the shadow people. I'm trying to rule that out. I'm trying not to go there because I'm a very low-profile channel and I don't have a massive amount of... I don't know what the influence is and the reach is, really. The numbers could all be lies. But I'm pretty low-profile. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I'm not going for the hits and the likes and the big numbers. So I don't know why they mess with me. I think I'm already doing a good enough job of not reaching very many people. But you never know. You never know. They might just see the potential. They might be like, oh, this guy, if we don't mess with him and start shaking his confidence and making him panic a little bit, then he might get too good. And he might become unstoppable. But yeah, I think this has been a pretty good test. We had some fun. Checking my memory. Aldous Huxley, Brave New World Revisited. Charles Galton Darwin, Next Million Years. They're basically the same book. That's what we learned today. I reckon I'll wrap it up there. No comments or questions coming in. So I guess people are relaxing and having a good Thursday night. Hope you all enjoyed bonfire evening yesterday and let off some small explosives in a safe and controlled manner. Because it's all about health and safety these days. The world controllers really care about our health and our well-being, and that's why they put all their red tape in place, all their rules and regulations and licenses and forms you have to fill and data you have to hand over because they care about you and they want to protect you. Just like the farmer cares about his flock of sheep and wants to protect them so that he can shave their wool and chop them up and sell them at the market. That's what it's all about, really. Managing the human herd. And is there a way out? Is there anything that can be done when 1/10 of us goats, dropped my pencil, 1/10 of the goats can see what's going on and push back, but 90% of the sheep are just going to keep going along to get along. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Chanting their slogans and repeating their headlines and the bits and bytes of downloaded information that they get from their talking heads, favorite podcasts and mainstream news sources. And those over here in this small corner of the internet who like to actually read books written by the people who run and design the systems and the cultures and the civilizations and are close to the power, to the corridors of power and influence. We pay attention to what they say and we say, hang on a minute. What they have planned and what they have lined up is, you might want to pay some attention to that because we might not want to go there without some kind of pushback. But even in this day and age, you can get 3 million signatures on a petition and it gets completely ignored by your liberal democratic government because democracy is so effective and it works so well that when 3 million people sign a petition to have their wishes and their voice heard, it gets completely ignored. That's where we're at. And actually, if you read things like the First Global Revolution, I've been working on some summary notes and a kind of trivium breakdown, looking at the grammar, the logic, and the rhetoric of the introduction to the book. They actually do lay it all out here, in 1991. But 1991, you got 1970. They talk about how democracy's ineffective, it doesn't work. And internationalism is the new thing. And part of the method for bringing you along on that ride, making you abandon your pride in your nation and your cultural heritage and your ancestry, is by flooding the zone with foreign people and supporting them to have a very high birth rate and undercutting you and your birth rate, which seems to be what's happening, unless it's just a spontaneous thing. The certain groups of people have just spontaneously decided that they don't want to propagate out into the future, whereas other groups actually do want to do that and do care about it. But I think there's more at play. I think there's more manipulation. There's incentives put in place. There's messaging. There's moralizing. And it all adds up to the picture that we're living in now. So nothing by accident, all by design. Keep spreading the good message, you goats. Keep being not confrontational, that's not the word. What was the word? It begins with con. I don't want you to con people, but the word is not condescending, contrarian. Keep being contrarian, right? Keep asking the questions. Keep pointing out the contradictions. Keep identifying the logical fallacies and the ways in which our emotions are manipulated and used against us to go along with things that harm us and damage the interests of our people and our families and our generations to come, because that's what's going on. It's dark and it's creepy, and it's happening right before our very eyes, and it's all written down in these books. So hope you enjoyed tonight's spontaneous live stream test. It was a success as far as live streams go. I will say I'm not going to live stream tomorrow night, Friday the 7th. I'm going to be too tired and I'm going to be traveling. So we could do Saturday or Sunday. I'm going to try and do Saturday or Sunday, but I'll announce it in the Telegram group. If you're not in the Telegram group yet, you can get in there by going to allmylinks.com/HEYS reviews. And there's a little link there to join the Telegram group. And then there's a little thing to join the chat, and you can join the public chat attached to the Telegram group, and you can hang out with me, and I'm in there most days, sharing links and insights and information and having a good time. It's a nice group. It's not like a constant barrage and stream of people chucking links in and then disappearing. It's actually, it's a bit calmer. People tend to contribute as and when they feel they've got something valuable or useful to share. And we have a nice little chilled out back and forth going on in there. It's pretty good fun. So that's allmylinks.com/HEYS reviews. Check it out for all the good stuff. I need to update my email address on there, actually. If you do want to get in touch, Nick@HEYSreviews.com is my new branded email address. How about that? Not too difficult to set up, actually, and fairly cheap. So the audio and video was good this evening. That's great to hear. Thank you. Hermit Tramp says travel, Bristol. No, unfortunately not. We're going the other way. We're going into the Lion's Den. We're going to London, or Londonistan, as it's now as it's now known by certain people, by certain racist far right extremists. So I wish we were going to Bristol. I really do. I would much rather go there for the day. But whenever and if ever we do go back there, I'll be sure to let you know. And we are long overdue a visit to Bristol. Actually, we used to live there, and we had a good time. But goddamn, is it expensive? All right, I'm gonna call it there. I'm just gonna end the stream. I won't do a little outro musical thing tonight because I just gotta pack up and get on and go and do my chores now. So take it easy, everyone. Hope you have a good rest of the evening. I'll see you on either Saturday or Sunday. I'm not sure which day yet, but we will be back to continue with Between Two Ages. I'm looking forward to it. So many books to read, so little time. Let's crack on together, keep learning, keep moving forward, keep uplifting ourselves out of ignorance, out of apathy, and out of fear. Because information is empowering, knowledge is power, and then when you share it with other people, it becomes wisdom. And if you can impart wisdom to other people, that is a very worthwhile thing to try and do indeed. So yeah, have a good one. Thank you for hanging out with me on this test tonight. It's always lovely to spend time with you. I hope something happened for you that was interesting or entertaining or useful. I don't know, but it was a test. So you know, you get what you get, don't you? So yeah, thanks everybody. Good night and God bless. I think that is it. There, that's it.